Welcome to another episode of Geek-Men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds. I'm Dustin, and I don't have anyone else to hand it off to, so let me do this. We'll just dive right into it. All right, today I want to welcome a very special guest. His name is Guillermo Olivo. I can't roll my R's, so I'm really bad about that.
You're good. You're good. How's it going, Dustin? Thank you for inviting me, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Happy to have you on, man. Oh, so it's you said it's storming in your area, so
yeah,
I turned on local recording. So
it's Florida, so it's normal. It's normal. We're used to it. In the summer, people think that the summer we get like the best the weather and everything. It's actually when it gets worse. Like it rains and there's no. We're not clustered within mountains, so it's weird because, like, for example, when you're in California and it starts raining, then you know that you're going to be down for 2 or 3 hours of water. Here it could be 5 minutes,
right?
Since there's nothing, no natural barrier to hold the system, it just flies over. But when it does, it's like with the heaviest, strongest force of nature, so it complicates things. So how you been? I like the hat, man. I like the hat.
Yeah. My dad gave this to me for surviving cancer, I guess. So for getting out of the hospital.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Congratulations on that, man. That's a battle. That's a battle that I know what it is. Being there myself, and you know, once you're out and about, it's a whole different world. You see the world different. Like, your priorities change, and everything comes from a different perspective after that. And
it does.
Very happy that you're there, man, and just keep your chin up, and you know, now you get to appreciate more everything that you do.
I mean, I have another bone marrow biopsy soon, so that'll be the official marker that I can check off, like, okay, it's done, it's behind me. So that'll happen next month. But
you'll be great, man. And you have to start by just visualizing and materializing that. I know we're here to talk about toys and all that stuff, but I recently had like an experience, like as in months ago, and you're waiting for that validation of, like, you're 100% free. To hear it from someone, but it should start on you. Like, you should already, like, declare, I'm 100% free, I'm good, like, I'm just gonna move forward. And I'm gonna find out eventually that I'm 100% free. But you know, just change your lifestyles and make better decisions now, and stay off the bad stuff that generates all that. And it's different.
It really is.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's been real nice to see everyone's positivity and my returning, I guess I could say. But I'm still stumbling, but I'm pushing through.
Well, change the vibe. Just turn it into a positive vibe, because that is a proven scientific fact that, you know, and embrace that positive thoughts that are heading to you, and grab them and you know, rub them with something good. You just rub them on your skin, and embrace all that positive thoughts, and move forward, man. Move forward. That's the only way.
It really is. So let's talk about you. You recently had first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, you're documentary filmer predominantly.
Yes and no. I don't think that, there's a few filmmakers that can call themselves just as experts on documentaries. And that's all that they do. And I don't know how they pay their bills. Because documentary the documentary genre or unless it's something that is commissioned by one of the big houses like Netflix or HBO. Right. If you years ago, there used to be like a household of documentaries, and just like the BBC type of workflow. They just commission subjects like, oh, data suggests that we need a documentary on bicycles, whatever, and then just go and find a filmmaker, and they just commission that, and they get paid, and then go like, that's a wonderful dream, but that's like a very elite, very short amount of people that do that. So
Yeah.
documentaries, I don't pay my bills with documentaries, to be
Right.
honest with you, and I do other genres within my industry. Like I heavily rely on music. Like we make musical live entertainment musical videos or stuff like that, and or commercials or promos
Mhm.
for networks and stuff like that. That's how I pay the bills. And when I can afford the luxury to jump into the documentary bandwagon, I go for it full force. Like I have a list of 100 type of documentaries that I would love to do at some point. Um, and at a certain part of my life, I was debating of, okay, and the season is coming when I can allocate a certain amount of time to do a documentary. And
Mhm.
like I said, I have hundreds, and like every filmmaker, I have hundreds of projects, ideas, visions of what to do and what to talk about. But toy collecting has always been a strong part of myself.
Right.
On a personal level, I'm a toy collector, as you can clearly see in the back. This is one of the rooms, and people like you that knows me, they know that I'm an active collector. Um, and there's this typical, like, if you show your show to a non-collector, to someone that is not within our bubble, and they see the name and they see, Masters of the Thunder Nerd or Geek-Men, we
Yeah.
already have like a label in our head, like, these guys are dorks. They're probably living with their parents in their basements and stuff like that, and none of that is true. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that might fit that type of profile, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the majority from my
Right.
perspective. So I was always like, I was always like flirting with that concept of, damn, I should do something and talk about collectors.
Mhm.
So Irvin Santiago, which is predominantly one of the main story arcs in Plastic Crack, he has such an interesting life, because he's like 1/8, like 365 days of the year, just talk about toys. I'm pretty sure once we turn this off, we can talk about plumbing issues in your house, and we can talk about, I don't know, man, how was your taxes. We can talk about normal stuff, like
Right. Right.
mortgage has increased in my area. A lot of people moved from Canada down here after the pandemic. We can talk about what is considered normal stuff forever. But with Irvin, you can't do that. That guy is like
Mhm.
100%, 365 days toy related issues. Yeah, nothing else to talk about. And even if you deviate and you start talking about something else, he's gonna go back to toys. So Irving was my main target from a while ago, but I was looking for that a specific. I needed that catalyst to justify the investment of jumping into, I know, something that I know is a weird investment, because you spend all this money and all this time in something that necessarily won't pay off,
Right.
or you won't get your money back. So you need to have a very good justification. And
Mhm.
so he lives in a house, which is, that for me is a warehouse, surrounded. He walks through crates and totes and beans of toys. He calls it a house, and it's funny. Uh, but like I said, the guy's a walking toy man. Talking
Yeah.
about toys. So one of the hurricanes, one of the major threat on the state was coming, and he lived in an area that was deemed mandatory evacuation zone, because it
Mhm.
was going to get obliterated. Like, it was, that hurricane that year was a record breaking size and strength and everything. It was going to be like a nuke, pretty much.
Right.
So I call, check on him, and go, so what are you gonna do? Like, I was heading to Atlanta, and I live 20 miles off that coast. So I was
Mhm.
20 miles away from that point, and I was heading out. He was right there, like 5 minutes away from the coast, and he's like, I ain't moving. I'm not going anywhere. And I go, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you're not going anywhere? He's like, well, I'm not going anywhere because if everything goes down, I'm gonna go down with my toys.
Oh my goodness.
So crazy enough, I'm like, well, you don't mind if I go there like in 30 minutes with a camera? And that was a perfect catalyst. So okay, now I have a story
Yeah.
to hold on to, and then but I also wanted it to reflect like what does your wife thinks about your having a grown-up man having a room full of toys. This could be my in-laws guest room when they come in, but no, I decided that hell no, they're not staying in this room,
Right,
like
right,
that
right.
type of stuff. So I wanted to explore all those myths and all that stuff. And so in that process, we started following Irving all over the place. And in that process, I met Justice
Mhm.
Curry.
Yeah.
So Carlos Barron introduced me to Justice online, obviously. And then I was watching his YouTube videos and all that stuff. And then we started talking. He was like very interested of us capturing the story. And I basically blackmailed him. I basically said, like, look, in order for me to justify going to Michigan for a certain amount of time, I mean, it's your story is very appealing because he has an incredible good story, but I need more. So
Yeah.
he found I don't know how many collectors in the area, and we ended up spending a few weeks in Michigan, just literally traveling all over the states, recording amazing stories. And
Yeah.
what was supposed to be a one lane 120 minutes feature, when we came back from Michigan, we had so much that one of the producers involved, she was like, dude, I mean, what are you gonna do with all that? Like cutting all that, it's gonna be painful. Why don't you just turn this into a series? And that's how
Right.
Plastic Crack series was born. Little
Yeah.
did I know that it was gonna turn into a monster. Because the problem is let's say I'm doing a documentary on oil, right?
Mm. Yeah.
I'm not related to oil. I don't do anything with oil. None of my family, but I do the research and we go and we'll film. And it's going to get to a point that I'm like, all right, I'm satisfied. I have enough to tell a story. Let's go back to the chopping board and put it together.
Mhm.
But when it's toy related and you're a collector, it's like when are you cap out with your collection? Like, are you satisfied or you're not gonna buy? That's a lie. You're always gonna want more toys and more action figures. And yeah, I don't have space in this room. Well, then maybe we just try to use the living room. And then it's a never ending hoarding addiction. So that happened to me as well with the documentary. Like, okay, now if it is a series, well, I might as well just keep rolling until it got to a point that everyone involved like made a like some sort of coup d'etat. They like rebel and say, this needs to stop. You got to stop filming. Let's edit. Let's put this together. And that kind of worked because I kept filming.
Uh-huh.
But that helped to put together the first season. The typical question that I get after a few years of publishing the first season is like, what's going on with the second season, especially since it ended on a cliffhanger.
Right.
And the thing is that I had a second season booked to be released a few months afterwards. But there was an issue with the company. We have to like morph into a different company, and that was, that ate up a few years, a few months in delay. And then with the release of the first season, that opened the doors to a different perspective,
Mhm.
and I had opportunities to film abroad. Like
Mhm.
for season two, it's not just US based. Like we film in Brazil, we're filming in Australia, we're filming in Argentina, and we started to find, and not just collectors, we started to find this never seen before things.
Yeah.
Like I had exclusive access to the top toys, since you're a Masters fan, to the top toys factory in Argentina. And we went and saw ourselves like prototypes and molds and the stories of, because I think it mirrors. I know this is a long answer to your question, but I think it mirrors collecting. So, what happened when I get all my domestic release figures? Should I
Right.
stop? Should I just leave it like that? Am I content with that? Some of us fall into the dark hole of like, Well, I have all, especially with Motu, like getting the complete domestic run is not that hard because they're not like Joe's or Star Wars, where you need to, thousands of figures. Um, well, I'm not gonna stop. I still like this, so I'm just gonna start getting foreign variants or prototypes, and that's where everything goes to hell, especially in finance. That happened with Plastic Crack as well. So I started capturing things abroad that no one had seen before, and from a filmmaker point of view and a toy collector point of view, that's very appealing. That's
Yeah.
super sexy. But then COVID came in,
Hmm.
and we had the second season cut and paste, and some people actually saw it. Some of the people involved saw it. I went to Michigan and played a few episodes to some of the folks there. Same thing with the Florida guys, and but then after COVID, everything changed. Not just from a business point of view, from a platform point of view, from a release point of view, but also we lost people that we have on camera. So
Hmm.
now I have to take it. I have to take a more respectful approach to certain things. The series, as you know, because you saw the first season, has always been respectful. Because one of the myths that I wanted to kill is like that we're all dorks, or like
Yeah.
we were in depth because we collect toys, or some of these myths I wanted to like face down and debunk them,
Hmm.
and therefore those series have a very respectful approach of collecting. None of the people involved are depicted as silly in a silly way or anything like that.
Yeah.
So with that premise, and then capturing someone giving you their thoughts, and then that person is no longer with us, it grows like into, now I have to take a deeper respectful approach to all this precious time that this person gave me. And
Hmm.
so we have to like scratch the whole thing, go back to the board, and reimagine how season 2 will look like. And that's where we were not so long ago. We're finally now composing and and putting together the new buckets of how the story is going to go, and basically reimagining the first vision. So basically I've done season 2 3 times already. And this fourth time is the one that is going to get published.
Right. Well, that's exciting. I know I'll be excited to see it regardless, but you also, aside from toys, you also did another one recently, right? Take a Ride in Miami?
Correct. Take a ride. It's not my project. I was approached by a friend who's in the business, and they basically, he had someone who was a first time director trying to make a documentary, those, like I was saying at the beginning, those things are not like, you have funds or stuff, and you
Mhm.
have um limited power to do things. It's like, it's usually documentaries are act of love in a way, are
Yeah.
very passion driven and not necessarily profit. So he's like, we're stuck, we've been filming all these things. Here's the thing about Miami, especially people from abroad. When you think of Miami, the first thing that you think is South Beach and girls in bikini and palm trees and vacationing, and everybody thinks that we go to the beach every Saturday, and we don't. uh, but then when you cross that bridge from the coastline, and then you walk into the actual city, then things change dramatically. And there's, of
Mhm.
course, we have certain areas that are high on crime. Not everything is like that at the same time, but there's
Right.
there's a major issue with gun violence. So the first approach was, obviously at guns, and I don't believe, I especially don't believe that we have to approach the issue of gun violence with banning gun owning, or although there is an issue itself. Like, it's so easy to go and get guns right now. Like, anyone can just walk and buy a weapon, and that's a bigger thing. So we wanted to take a different approach. So I just started capturing real stories from people in the hood, and the director who was working on it, he started we started brainstorming on how to restructure the whole thing. And so he's like, well, I want to talk about this city because this is where my dad got killed when I was 5, and I was just looking the whole thing through the window, and then, but also I want to capture this thing in this city because this is where my friend got killed. And then he starts telling me his story, and is an incredible story because he had every single excuse to become a gang member and to be one of those guys right now on the street, but he's not. He's like, he got a degree. He was a college football star. Like he was able to overcome all of that and turn into a good example. And then I said, look, if you don't mind, but we shouldn't be recording that. Let's talk about you. And then we turned the whole thing around, and it's basically in a nutshell a reflection of like, hey, look, if there's a kid right now in the corner with a gun thinking of how to, survive the hood, and they usually think like, well, this is the life that I got, and this is not like, this is it, that this is going to be, and no matter what you tell me, this is not going to change. And that guy that we recorded, he's a perfect example that yes, you can get out of the hood, you can become a decent human being, you don't need to rely on these things. And it was a very interesting documentary to make, because very heartfelt and very, very raw stories, and hopefully makes some sort of what we're trying to achieve is to raise awareness on this dramatic issue that we face from a local perspective, but that can always set us an example abroad. Like if you're in I don't know, in Chicago, or in you are Detroit, for example, they can just grab and say, oh, look how they are approaching to that subject, and maybe we can apply that here, and hopefully that will generate some change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy to think of things that are going on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's rough. But that's the beauty of documentaries, because you're just out there capturing stories, and telling stories is a new medium. It's a new, well, and by new, a few, quite a while now, but it's a great medium to just go and tell stories, because it's like, for example, you can do that on a newscast, but then you have no more than 5 minutes to tell a story. Because of obvious reasons. Like the newscast is an hour long, and then you have to share the whole thing, and then if people don't connect with the story, they're just gonna swap to the next channel or whatever, or scroll, I should say now. Whereas in this format, you have more time to picture an arc,
right?
And then it's richer from a narrative point of view to tell stories. And so, I have three documentaries right now on my desk, like working on it, and I'm prioritizing Plastic Crack, because dude, you have no idea the amount of shows that I go and people go, what happened with season 2? And it used to be like on a cheerful mode, and now it's like I know everyone's a little frustrated with that, but it happened when it happened. Like I'm very glad that we didn't publish season 2 when it was ready, because it's nowhere near what it became now. It's gonna be very interesting. And another interesting fact of that is that we recorded a lot of these journeys, like Justice and Irving, in early 2017. So, and I recorded Irving last year, and some other folks last year. So you see that progression. All those years, visually speaking, kicked in.
Right.
So you can trace him, like he's like white bearded, and it looks different. So that is a production asset, and within the story, if you can afford it, if you can afford to spend X amount of years following the story, it makes it richer. It makes the story richer, but not your wallet.
Right. Well, so you also started doing the plastic chats.
Yes, that was
how's that?
Literally during the pandemic. Like, here's the thing: during the pandemic, we were all locked up to a certain degree during the pandemic, and then I'm like, well, I still want to talk about toys.
Right.
And we came up with that idea of, let's just chat, let's just have plastic chats. And I started calling specific friends who were like eager to sit down and let's analyze, like for example, Motu Yo. We haven't published that one, but we chose Motu reaction figures from Super 7, the three
Uh,
quarter one,
yeah.
and we literally analyze each and every one of them, the whole run,
Nice.
because we both have a complete set. And then we started talking about prototypes and that type of stuff. So obviously, in my personal case, regrettably, the world needs to be on a lockdown for me to be able to do that. And so I just wanted it to talk about toys. Originally, it was scheduled to be released on a certain platform that I'm not going to mention by name for business reasons.
Mm.
But during the pandemic, they changed the rules of what they wanted it to put on, because just like me, a lot of filmmakers out there were just locked down and doing stuff, and they wanted to publish stuff, and it was too much, so they have to like shut the door down and started filtering more. So that was a little bit of a down of, oh shoot, it didn't go where we were hoping that it was going to be. So eventually I'm like, I'm just not gonna have this in my hard drive. So we just put it for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I mean, there it's very niche, because their episodes are very specific. Like if you're not into Star Wars, you won't survive a 2 hour Star Wars episode. Same thing applies to Motu if you're a Star Wars fan, or Joe's, like with Eduardo Vila from Panama. We explore, I think it was 32 different countries that made or had the license to make GI Joe at a certain
Uh,
time, and we literally went country by country talking about foreign releases. So it's very niche. It was, and it's very out there. But if you dig that, then you have 2 hours of nice content that falls within your alley. You know what I mean?
right. Right.
So I still have, I don't know, like 12 episodes unpublished. It's funny because there's one that those some of them expired, in the sense like I spoke to Mike Havens from the ICC, and we were talking about the future of conventions. Of course, we taped the whole thing during lockdown, and we didn't know what conventions were going to be like. That kind of expired because conventions are back, and COVID is technically a part of life now. So
And
um
or away
right.
entirely.
And so some of those are somewhat expires, but just out of respect of the people that gave me that hour of their time, they're gonna get published at some point. It's not just priority right now. Right now, all the
Right.
gears are into. I'm doing two things. I'm doing for YouTube a thing called Geek Hunt, which
Oh
is
yeah.
basically in multiple cities across the world, just looking for stuff. I figure there are a lot of people on YouTube like recording themselves in flea markets, or even going to Target and going to Walmart. I'm just decided, like, well, let me just do Guadalajara, Mexico, and see how that looks like. And it can, I mean, the episodes are there, and there's good reviews on that, and people are wanting more. I have like 7 more series that we haven't been able to put together, but I mean, they're gonna get published at some point.
Right.
Like I said, this is all like passion driven. Like I'm
Oh
not.
yeah. It has to be.
It's all passion driven. Like
Yeah.
not, it's not for the money, and so that comes with a toll. Like I wish I could do this 24/7. Like this could be my full time job,
Hmm.
but I have to win the lottery in order to go and say, yeah, everything else is gonna get taken care of while I just play with toys on camera.
Right.
On camera, that would be a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's like, man, can't I just play with my toys and just you just maybe have someone watch? I don't know. Like.
Right. That's the beauty of, and that's why I think I see rooms like this like temples. Like,
Mhm.
when you walk into this room, and I've said this multiple times, you go back to when you were 8 or 7, and you didn't even know what mortgage means, and you assume that the power was on for some miraculous reasons, but you didn't even comprehend that someone was paying the bill.
Right.
So when I walk into these rooms, I feel that connection with that younger me who
Mm.
was problem free in a sense. And so I believe a big part of the nostalgia is that it's connecting to a younger you that was, problem free,
Mhm.
and didn't have the typical stress that comes with life, or of raising kids or things like that. You go back to you connect to that younger you, and it's fun again. So of course I would love to have a perfect excuse to just do that. Who wouldn't
Right.
want to be an 8-year old all the time and don't go to school, don't do anything, don't do chores, just play with toys?
Yeah.
Like,
I
yes,
tell my
I'm
kids that all the time. It's like, yeah, don't focus on growing up so fast. Like, just enjoy this moment right now.
correct. You're happy and you don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really are. I mean, they all have their problems and drama and stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. But okay, so we've sort of danced around this subject a little bit, but okay, so specifically with COVID, um, how video games changed the course of toys, and then with COVID changing the way we collect. Um, what do you think it's going to look like for future generations?
I I tend to have a pessimistic approach at that, because the way that I see it, it's is a generational thing. Those just like teen toys and 12-inch, even 12-inch action figures are on the decline, because
Mhm.
the demo that was into that is basically retire, and they just like they need to be more smart about how they spend their money, and the last thing that they want, just want a comfortable retirement, and not necessarily burn their money on dolls. So that dies off with the generation, and since we didn't play with those, or they have any type of connection with that, we're not buying those things. Like I love GI Joe. This is my GI Joe room, but I don't have 12-inch. I don't have the
Mhm.
original Joes, because that wasn't part of my thing. I was, my Joes were the ones that you used to see on the cartoon, and those are the three quarters are the one that I haven't even transitioned into classified, because that scale doesn't do it for me. So taking that in consideration is like a couple in the last 2 or 3 years, like things like Ghostbusters, Street Sharks, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have taken a humongous spike in pricing, and in wanting in general. And I believe it's because that generation that was after us, I don't know how old are you, but I'm getting you closer to my age train, um, now have the disposable income to burn money on those things.
Mhm.
Whereas I don't own turtles. I was never a turtle guy.
Yeah.
That was when the turtles came out. I was already too old for that.
Mhm.
But now I see the turtle guys like spending big bucks on turtles, because 10 years ago they were like too young to jump
Mhm.
into it, or the nostalgia was still like too fresh. But
Mhm.
now they got to that sweet age of, well, I can burn money, and that connects me to what we were saying before, and it reminds me when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and so it's a generational thing. And then Star Wars is the only weird unicorn in this equation, because nobody really understands why Star Wars hasn't really have taken a step down. Like Star Wars keeps being the high after sought after item, but Joe's and Moto, we seen declines and spikes. And I see my son's generation as not engaged with any type of material toys at all. I
Mhm.
mean, his nostalgia is probably going to be a nap. Like he's going to talk to his friends in his 30s, and he's going to say, "Oh man, remember that app when we used to play with like whatever? Remember Minecraft? That was so much
Right.
fun playing with Minecraft." But playing, that's the thing. When you and I talk, we're like, "Man, I remember when I got my first battle cat, and I took it to school, and I was the coolest kid on the yard, because I had the cat. Everyone had figures, but I had the cat that I could put
Right.
Eman on top." This kids will go and say, "I remember when we used to connect playing Minecraft," just to say an example. You could say
Yeah.
Fortnite,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So they're not growing. He doesn't care about any of this stuff.
Right.
And therefore, when I retire and he's on a sweet disposable income age, he's not going to pay a dime for any of this crap. So my take on it is not. It's kind of pessimist. It's not so positive because I don't see that new generation stepping in strongly.
Hmm.
I see in shows like I was just at Joe Fest and I saw a lot of kids, obviously kids of collectors, like heavily jumping into Joe's and knowing the lore and knowing the characters. And I'm like, how old are you? You're 10? Oh, this is like, hope for the future. But it's just a small percentage. And those are
Yeah.
going to be outcasts in that big generation. So, how do I see this in the future? Not so good.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I say that as I'm looking at my Ninja Turtles and Star Wars and stuff like that.
Well,
And
there's with Star Wars, you might think that maybe because Disney's a juggernaut and they're not gonna they spend a lot of money on the franchise. They're not gonna let that franchise die. It was a
right.
smart investment. Like they bought a portfolio, and they're gonna keep milking that cow as much as they
Mm,
can with ups and downs, things that people like, people that people won't like. They will tweak it. Disney is a very solid. I think it was a natural. I don't blame George Lucas for selling the franchise to Disney because I couldn't think of anyone else that could handle something like Star Wars. So on that sense, Star Wars probably has a longer shelf life because
mhm.
you're gonna keep getting series and movies and stuff, and that may or may not appeal to future generations.
Right. Yeah, I
Joes
mean,
are
and they'll be
Joes are in trouble
yeah,
because there's nothing out there and nothing planned out there, and I don't think Hasbro is doing a good job with classified. Like they have the wrong people handling the franchise,
yeah,
extremely unplugged and or disconnected with they're trying to cater to a younger generation, a newer generation, and they're like completely putting on the side our generation, which are the buyers right now. If you walk into
right.
a Walmart and you go into the part where they have classified, I bet you $100 that you rarely will see a kid considering those figures. It will be a guy like you and I going there
Hmm.
and say, "Oh, there's the new Flint. I'm going taking this home," but
Right.
it won't be a kid. So
Yeah.
they're not talking to that guy. They're not talking to that collector. They're like lost into pronouns and all this woke crap that I respect, but you cannot forget that you're selling action figures, military action figures to
Hmm.
40-plus-year-old people
Hmm.
that are not into that at all, connected to they just want to see their characters that they grew up with done in that scale. So when you're
Hmm.
like lost in translation and the company is not bidding on movies or series or anything like that, that is a grim future. It doesn't
Yeah.
pan out well.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I mean, like my daughter has somewhere around here. She has Scarlet, which I gave her, or one of my buddies gave her, and so she had Scarlet and carried that around and liked it. And she has a Chitara that she runs around and
Mhm.
and is attached to. But it's like I can't see. She doesn't. It's not like a recurring thing. She doesn't go back to it every time. She's not like clutching it in her hand as she
Right,
goes to sleep. Like
right, and she's probably just playing with it because it's there, because it's
right.
available. Because if
Yeah.
it wasn't, she would probably be playing with that Donatello that you show me, or
Yeah.
she'd be playing with any of the stuff um, that is available, but not necessarily
Hmm.
because I connect with Scarlet.
Right.
Like what's the most that like what's the biggest part of your collection? Motu, right?
Um. Well, actually, my original Thunder. I have every of all my original turtles still, and I picked up a few of the Super 7 ones. I have the NECA ones from
The turtles. Turtles will
yeah,
be your main thing, right? Okay.
yeah. That's so that and well, mainly Star Wars because I have a ton of Star Wars stuff.
Turtle hasn't stopped in a certain degree. Like they haven't done like big blockbusters and stuff like that. But they every now and then they come out with a new cartoon, and then
Hmm.
some of the latest cartoons have been able to click with a certain younger audience, and
Hmm.
that is like a lifeline that they have here and there. It's a strong franchise. It's
Yeah.
and it's a no brainer. That's how I always said. Like it's a no brainer. You have this wonderful set of rules of with characters and stuff to just print and make money,
Hmm.
and they're just like, what? It's weird. It's weird.
Well, I mean,
I love what Super Seven was doing with them. I
yeah.
love that. I mean, the Ultimates, from my perspective, and I don't collect them, but I've seen them, and I have in some degree some of them. Like the Ultimates, if I was a diehard Turtle guy, I will dive in nonstop, no breaks, no whole barriers between NECA and Ultimates,
Hmm.
because they're like the actual real thing. The sculpture, the way that they're shaped, the articulation, like that's a perfect toy from my
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I definitely appreciate the NECA ones, and but it just seems like everyone is milking. It's like, oh, we got turtles to milk. Let's go back and milk more turtles.
The
But
negas are definitely work so far, but the Super Seven, especially the Ultimates, I think they cater more to the actual cartoon
yeah.
version. I think I connect them more to the actual. That's how it was in my head when I was watching the cartoon, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily with the figures that we had in the past with Playmates. So
Mm-hmm.
like an upgraded. I see it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an upgrade, a major upgrade.
And that's the thing. Like they're the big my when I got them, I put the alternate heads on all of
Uh
them,
huh.
and it's like, yeah, okay, this is how I imagined it in my head, you
Right.
know. But yeah, I get that.
And kudos to Ryan for that, because he always, from my perspective, I'm an open confess admirer of Super 7, and I think they're, and I know not everybody thinks like that, but I really like them because I think there's actually toy people, collectors
Hmm.
behind it, and you can see
Yeah.
it. You can see it. I fell hard for the reaction
Hmm.
motor line, and what caught me the most was that brilliance of list. He was the first adding um foreign variants or comic book variants and that type of. He went deep like this. You can
Yeah.
tell that there was a collector brainstorming all those decisions, whereas if we go back to classify, you go like, what the freak are there, what are they thinking? Like that didn't happen to me with Super 7 or
Yeah.
even the Ultimates Thundercats. Those things
Right.
are incredible,
Yeah.
incredible. Like, and so
Yeah.
y-
I mean, they are.
yeah,
This monkey is awesome,
I have that.
but
I have that as a prototype. I have the
yeah,
prototype of that. Yeah.
that's awesome.
I was
Yeah,
able to
I
get.
mean, and they're killing me with their tease of the cat's lair, or what in theory could be the cat's lair. But I'm looking at my wallet and looking back at that, and I'm just like,
And it doesn't look good. Did you get the tank?
yes, I did.
I think it's
Yeah,
incredible.
it is. It's so insane, and I just get so much joy when I'm sitting there looking at it, because I unfortunately didn't have the Thunder Tank. I was born in the wrong time period, my mom says, because I liked He-Man and Thundercats and all that stuff, but that was all gone, and the only thing I could really latch onto was GI Joes and which I only had a few of, and Turtles. So I don't know, it's just weird.
I bet. I bet. But now you have the chance to get. Well, I never had the tank when I was a kid. Now I'm
Mm,
gonna get this tank, but which
yeah,
by the way, it's a major upgrade from the
yeah,
vintage version. Major upgrade. Major
yeah.
upgrade. And then the thing is a work of art. And it's not fair with them, like because when they were doing Motu, I really liked it. I really,
Mm,
and I felt deep into it as well. And then they come with Snake Mountain and basically set up the case for, because Mattel was like, yeah, you can do that. We're like into something else. And when they
mm,
saw if these guys were able to pull off, because Super 7 is like a tiny company, believe it or not,
Hmm.
they have less than 30 employees, something like that. When they saw that these guys were able to pull that off, they took the license back,
Right.
and that's not fair. And now, well, on collateral damage to that, but now, I mean, Origins, are you doing Origins in some degree?
No, no, I'm not. Bo is my co-host, but he got into that a little bit. But
I
yeah,
went, I
he
I went without breaks, man. I couldn't help it.
yeah,
I
and they
I loved
are
it.
fun figures.
Fun figures, man. Really well done and everything.
Yeah,
They just, I feel a little guilty sometimes because I know that this is a product of Mattel taking the license away from Super 7, but at the same time, they're very fun.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that
Well,
line, man.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. They also have their revelations or
Yeah, Revelations.
the revelations stuff, and so it's like it's like I'm looking at the original toy compared to the new one, and it's just like okay, but I like this one better. Like
The vintage.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
or even
the Revelations figures are also like, they're
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
They're freaking
I
cool.
mean, they are cool, but I still prefer a lot of times I prefer the horseman sculpts to their
Mhm.
imagining to it. You know,
Right.
I like that vibe, I guess,
Right.
but
Right.
I don't know.
It's, it's relative. Everything is relative, right? And
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have a variety of options for people to pick. You know.
yeah. Well, that is true. I mean, you have so many toys to pick from, and it's a problem because it's like, oh, I can't believe I'm having this problem. It's the first world problems. That's what they
Definitely,
call it. It's like
definitely, definitely a first world problem. Yeah, for sure.
it's like, oh,
Without a
which
doubt.
toy am I gonna choose today?
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't get my classified release on time, and then there's people in Ukraine in the middle of war.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
It's
It's a little
terrible,
shame.
but
It's a shame. Yeah.
I don't know. But
So
okay, so you have kids, I have kids, and how is that for you? Like, are you seeing all this drama and stuff, and you recognize that there's probably going to be connected by apps and stuff like that? But do you ever just shake your head and wish for something different? Like, I don't know.
I wish, but you can at the same time you can't force that. You can't force that,
Yeah.
and in some degree, I saw it to a certain degree. I will say, I should say, I saw it with Funko Pops, like
Mm,
being some sort of like, maybe this is how it's gonna pan out, but it turned into, it became a monster that every time that you slash ahead, it just three more came out, and so I don't even think that Funko Pops is into a nostalgia thing for
mm,
that. That I don't like. I will be very impressed. Like, I will be very like shocked 20 years from now to see someone saying, "Oh man, I wish I had that specific Funko Pop that I was never able to capture." Because another thing that I think plays a role in this whole world is availability.
mm,
So for us, it was either, did your parents get it for you when you were at the store, or did you get it in Christmas, or like,
mhm.
I saw the flag for the GI Joe flag for the first time. Well, not saw. I was able to get my flag when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So it only took me 30 years to get that. Nowadays, you freaking go to Amazon, and within 5 to 10 minutes, you will get shipped the following day, whatever you want.
Mhm.
So availability plays a role, and I think that the thrill of the hunt is different. Back then, like, I have a gung ho focus. Like, I have a specific set of gung ho figures because I was never able to get a gung ho when I was a kid, and I used
Mhm.
to see it on the cartoon, and I'm like, I really like that character. I know how the figure looks like because I can see it in the back of the car or in the catalog, but I was never able to get one myself. So
Hmm.
now that I can, I'm like, I have one from India and I have one from the UK and whatever. That is also another factor that won't play that will play a role in future generations, because I don't see anyone struggling to get what they want now. If you have the money, you just go and click and get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
that's true.
that plays a role.
Yeah. I
That,
don't know.
that
If you have the money, that's the key, because it's like, oh man.
Yeah, but for example, you're saying, man, I've been hunting down a set of Minton Car Silverhawks for 3 years, and
Mm.
finally here it is, and you see the picture of the guy posting the haul, right? I totally understand that. I will be very impressed to see something within that context with Funko Pops.
Yeah.
3 years facing the chasing down a figure, that's not true. Like, not true.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere right now and find whatever figure you want of these newer things. I think our
Yeah, that's
stock
true.
was more limited in terms of quantities and also availability.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're going deep into these theories of forecasting the future of collecting.
Going deep.
Yeah, going deep.
Oh boy. Well, I don't know. And I don't know. It's like, how many times can they make a Boba Fett figure?
As many as they can.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at like 3 on my desk right here. So yeah.
Boba Fett has this natural magic that no
It
one
really
has been
does.
able to break down, because if you think about it, when he came out, as a figure, we haven't even seen any version of him
Hmm.
in films. Like back then, you have to watch the film and then come back and say, "Oh, I want that bounty hunter because on
Hmm.
that movie he does this and that." When he came out with the famous rocket fire and Boba Fett promotion, nobody knew who he was. There was a glimpse of it in the holiday special in an animated form, but it
Hmm.
didn't, like, it looked cool and everything. It's just the way it looks, that
Hmm.
you don't care about the background of the figure. You don't have to see it yet, but you want that figure. You
Yeah.
want that figure. That the look on that design, it's something that appeals to people on a different level. Like,
Yeah.
that was my ultimate favorite figure of my vintage set of Star Wars. Has always been and always was. I still have graded my personal Boba Fett from when I was a kid, and it graded high because I had two. One that I play with a lot, and that was another one that for me was like, holy, don't mess with it. I don't want it to get I don't want the pain to, like, there
Right.
was something about that character, and I haven't seen the film at that point. I was just playing around with a figure that just looked damn good. So
Right.
there's something about Boba Fett that no one has been able to fully explain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, he's always been one of my favorites. So, but I like the lore and all that. But I digress. So, what is it on your what is it you're collecting right now?
Well, I kind of slowed down a little bit in recent years because of multiple reasons. One was the health situation that I told you about, and so I
Hmm.
my head was somewhere else. Um, every here and there, I pick up a Joe.
Hmm.
Like, I feel a little disconnected with Star Wars due to recent events. Like, I'm not so pleased with the newer movies or the newer series, and I don't have that motivation to go and get that new thing. And
Yeah.
I'm satisfied and in some degree somewhat complete with the vintage stuff. So there's nothing new out there that really grabs my attention. Maybe the retros, but like the retro original look like figures. I haven't. I'm not jumping into the newer retros from the series and all that, but those retro collection number, that's something that every time that they put one out, I get it. And Joe's here and there, but I'm not. I guess I got when I went abroad and started getting things from abroad. It's like where things got really crazy in this room, like So, and we've been morphing into a different type of thing. Like we're doing shows now. We have like a major booth going on in big shows, and now I'm exploring the other side. I'm also doing that for research purpose, but I'm not gonna spoil what is that all about. But I'm more on the other side of the road right now and observing trends and observing what's people getting and what people are buying and are heavily into. I guess right now my vibe has been redefined into more of rare, obscure, foreign or prototype things more than just production.
Right.
And because they're so scarce that like they're not it's not like you just go, yeah, you can always go to eBay and get stuff, but they're not as easy to find as regular production pieces.
Hmm.
Therefore, it's not like you're getting something new every week.
Yeah.
So every here and there comes something shows up, and if you have the funds and you can pull the trigger, just go for it. But most of the time, you let things go because of price range
Yeah.
and there's and that's like a dark alley, I guess. Like, I don't want to say that I turned into a hipster, but it's really a dark, very niche, very tiny alley in the back of the building. Like instead of getting in the front and getting, I'm doing origins, and I kept it to a point that I'm not gonna try to be a completist. If I have the figure, if somehow I connect it with the figure in the past, then I'm gonna get it. But then, like all this Sunman stuff, like I didn't even know about it until a few
Right.
years ago. I never saw that as a kid, so for me, I'm not getting those. I'm just
Right.
getting the characters that clicked to to mm, when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Yeah, I know. Like Fisto was always a big favorite of mine, and I also didn't have He-Man very much. I had a He-Man, but he broke. So the He-Man I latched onto, well, He-Man, I say He-Man, uh, was I totally blanked on his name.
How does it look like?
He's the blue spinny guy. It spin when you flipped his torso, he spun around.
Uh huh.
I forget his
I
name.
wanted to quit. Just squeeze and twist the
No,
straw.
no, he has a little thumb thing on the back on his waist, and you spin it like this, and he spins around. He's like
But
a
it's
tornado guy.
He-Man. But it's actually He-Man.
No, it looks like He-Man. His
Okay.
face.
This guy.
No,
Like he's spinning around. No. All right.
no, he's
The Motu fans right now like screaming at the screen. At the
I know, I know.
Anywho,
I have it blanked on me, and I cannot think of it. But he's the guy I had because when my He-Man broke, they didn't have those newfangled things that you can weave the hips
yeah.
back into place.
That's why I'm not into vintage. Like I do
Yeah,
connect with vintage, but I had a very decent amount of vintage figures, and then one of them, the rubber, like decided to retire,
yeah,
and I did try to put the little coupler that the thing that is being used right now that you put one end on the body and one end on the leg, and
yeah,
I said, oh hell no, this is giving me anxiety. I'm not gonna deal with that. So I just pretty much sold almost 90%. I have a few, like I can see my bottle armor He-Man and the Skeletors, but those are Venezuelans, and that's why. And I
uh-huh.
have a few from Top Toys, but the vast majority of them were like gone because I'm dealing with that. I'm dealing with the
Yeah,
rubber situation. So with Origins, you don't have that issue.
yeah. No, definitely, and yeah, they're awesome. I really like it. But yeah, so I couldn't replace it and so my He-Man became the blue guy, blue face, had the shield, and so that's who I used to pretend he was He-Man. And he's the one I sat on my battle cat and stuff like that.
You're not talking about Faker, right?
No, not Faker.
Okay. Well, let's leave it like that. And that was the one calling the shots on Battle Cat in your world.
In my world at the very time, because I mean, I didn't have a He-Man, so he was my He-Man stand-in replacement because it looks exactly like him, just has a helmet, and I almost had the name and it left me again. But yeah, so that's who I always connected to. I liked him. Cyclone.
Oh, okay.
That's who
He
I
does look like He-Man. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's why I was so like, I don't know. I'm clueless. Right. I don't see it as He-Man. That's why I didn't make the connection.
Yeah. No, I mean, because he had the thing that you could spin around, and
right.
He looks exactly like He-Man, just a little different. So I mean, for a time there was a little bit of
I don't see
time that I had him as my He-Man, but yeah, it was never the same, because I mean, also I had a friend that I would go over to his house, and his parents had bought like literally everything. He had Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, everything, every toy possible. He was like, he didn't care about his toys. So when the 90s He-Man came out, the New Adventures He-Man, he threw away his original He-Man and kept this skinny little dude with a ponytail. And I'm like, why? He can't even go on Battle Cat. Like, I was so angry. I just remember being so angry. It's like, he can't even sit on Battle Cat, and you threw away the original one. It's like, I would have kept that. I would have taken that as my He-Man.
Well, the thing is that you didn't have that experience where for you it was like one every here and there, and for him it was like all of them. So he didn't appreciate it as much as you did, and that's why for him letting it go wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it makes sense and when you're talking out loud as an adult, but I mean, I was so infuriated.
It does. I totally understand. It does make sense. So yeah, Origins are something else, man. I really like. I feel sorry for Super 7 and the license and all that, but like I really went all in with this line.
Yeah, and they're fun toys. I know that Super 7, I think they still had plans, for their cartoon they did were animated cartoon figures that they did, but yeah, I don't know. These are fun. I like the fact that you can swap them around. I mean, that was the whole reason I picked up a couple of the wrestler ones and gave those to my daughters as He-Man, and I was like, yeah, these are He-Man figures, and you can swap the parts and do different things, and they were into that, and I got them Castle Grayskull and a few of the other things, and it's like so it's like they have a nice little collection, but it's like they don't really play with it, but they do every now and then, and when they do, I sit there and watch.
I know, man. I know the feeling. I know the feeling. It's like my kid used to sit down and play with some of my stuff, and especially when Origins started, and when I got the castle, I opened it with him, and we put it together, and I had a few figures, and we did this thing in the backyard. Like I put it on the table, and I explained to him, and I let him put it together, because I was like, trying to bait, throw some bait to see if he played with it a few times, and then can I use your phone?
Yeah.
Can I get that? That's it. Gone.
Yeah. I should do that. I should go get their Castle Grayskull and take it outside in the yard and let them play with it.
How old are they?
6 and gonna be 10. So
both girls.
I haven't got the new She-Ra.
Hmm.
We watched the cartoon.
The Netflix.
Yeah, the Netflix one. But I haven't found the actual the She-Ra version of Origins figure yet. They have Evil Lyn, and the Sorceress and Tila. Um, but yeah, that's all that they have. And they have, I mean, my one daughter, she likes all the bad guys. I think it's like a. I'm hoping that it's this case.
That's a
I'm
bad
hoping.
sign. That's a
I'm
bad sign,
hoping. I'm
right?
hoping she likes Darth Vader, and
Okay.
and now she loves Skeletor.
Oh,
But I'm thinking it's because she's like so scared of it. She says she likes it, so that way it removes.
doesn't have to deal with him.
Yeah, so it removes that level of fear that she has initially. Like, oh,
Right.
okay, well, I love him.
Let me side with
He's
him
going to be
instead
nice
of
to me.
going against him.
Right, right.
Right. There's this famous video of that they have at the Disney parks. They have this Jedi Academy, and they
Uh-huh.
put, like, I did it with my kids multiple times. Like they put robes on them, and they make them do things, and eventually it's like a graduation thing.
Hmm.
But at some point, Vader comes out, and they have to face him.
Hmm.
And there's this famous video of this girl that they place in front of him, and she just kneel and like turn herself into the dark side. That's hilarious. No, I don't want to fight him. I'm just gonna turn in. I'm just gonna give up, give up to
That
the
would
dark
be my
side.
daughter.
Give up to the dark side, and that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
That would literally be my daughter. She would probably then go over and hold his hand.
But now that you say Vader, like for me, and Vader is a very interesting character in the sense of how it looks as well, and the visual
Mhm.
of it. There's this video that I saw not so long ago of this dog. There's a dog that they're putting a New Hope, and the dog like weeps and cries and gets all nervous when Vader steps into the Corellian Corvette, into the Tantive
Yeah, and
Four.
he like cowers. Yeah.
Like dude, I remember being like Vader being scary, but not that scary.
Right.
uh like I always thought that he was obviously he was the antagonist of the whole thing.
Hmm.
With my kid, he's been watching the Star Wars movies with me since he was very young, but there
Hmm.
was there was a time when he was like more, I guess, 6 or 7, when he was, more the rationality kicks in on a different way when they get to that age. So I decided to do a marathon over the weekend. Let's watch all the Star Wars films and blah 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 blah. And that was a great thing that we used to do together. Um, and that led to let's watch Clone Wars and Rebels and all that. That
Yeah.
was so much fun to do that
Oh
with
yeah.
him. And it really caught me by surprise because I decided to do that run of the marathon with the movies in order, not
Hmm.
order of release, but in order of episodes. So we watch
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, because that's where it ends. I won't watch past 6, right?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
so it was very impressive. By the time we got to 4th, to A New Hope, he was rooting for Anakin. He was like,
Mm.
"No, Anakin, don't do that." He was hoping for Anakin's redemption. Like he was
Yeah.
throughout A New Hope and Empire. He was like, "Anakin, what are you doing?" He kept saying that to the screen, like trying to for Anakin to make sense of his action. He was still
Hmm.
rooting for the episode 1 to 3 Anakin that was a good guy and that we were watching in Clone Wars. So
Hmm.
for him, Vader is not the real evil character. It's just Anakin doing something wrong, and hopefully he'll redeem at some point.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting point of view because I remember the backlash of the prequels in the late '90s,
Yeah.
and that was our perspective. But he was such a smart director. He was right on point. Like he was making that for a newer generation. The newer
Hmm.
generation, he basically flipped Vader around for the newer generation. So for them, he's no longer the emperor. Might be the emperor is the actual true evil, and Vader is
Right.
just a pawn that it's misled by the emperor in some degree. It's,
Yeah.
he made it innocent, and that I think
Yeah.
that was very clever. I
Yeah,
really like that new approach.
it's so great, and I appreciate your praise of the prequels because I mean, uh, you know, it's only in retrospect that people look back and be like, "Oh, wow, we didn't have it so bad under George Lucas." I mean, yes, sure, there might be cringy storylines. I saw someone post something like they took a clip from the Clone Wars where it's like Anakin flirting, and he's like, "Oh, Empress," and blah blah blah. And he's talking to Padme, and then Anakin under a new or Clone Wars. I like sand. It's just like, okay, yes, it's just he's grown. This
Right.
is just he's a testament that he's grown. Because this was the
I
Clone
like the
Wars.
prequels even back then. I'm
Yeah.
not that person that falls for peer pressure, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that that was a major thing back then. I remember that vividly. Like a lot of people were saying, "Oh, horrible movies." That's because everyone's saying it.
Yeah.
But like in my personal case, especially with episode one, I wasn't living in the States that year, 1999. I was living abroad, and I found out that the premiere abroad was going to be 6 or 7 months after the premiere in the US.
Mm.
And I'm like, I've been waiting for this movie for like 30 years, something like that. I can't remember how many years, but like decades. I'm not going to wait 8 months to see this thing. So I basically flew to Miami. And I remember vividly that the immigration officer saying, "State your business. Like, are you here in pleasure?" I'm like, I guess pleasure. What do you mean?
I'm here to see Star Wars.
I'm here to see Star Wars. I'm a bad liar. I'm a terrible liar. So I prefer not to do it because I'm gonna get caught, and then that's you can't undo that. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I came to see Star Wars. And he's like, so you don't have movie theaters in your country? I'm like, yes, we do, but it's gonna be in 8 months. And he's like, you mean to tell me that you jump on a plane to watch a movie in another country? I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Eventually, he let me go and everything, and I watched it on premiere date and everything. And like when we got out of the theaters, I remember a lot of people were like, What just happened?" I was not a fan of Jar Jar. Neither that generated hated me to say, "Oh, I hate this movie." I
Mhm.
was very impressed to finally seeing Jedi's in action. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is Jedi's in their prime,
Yeah.
like doing the real thing. I remember Qui-Gon and the opening sequence when they were like get ambushed within the Federation ship. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan just like running like super fast out of the Dodecas. I'm like, oh shit, this is
Yeah.
how Jedi's are in their prime.
Right.
Like the Jedi's that we knew at that moment was Obi-Wan being like this old creep trying to manipulate Luke, but Luke was never he never flourished as a
Right.
Jedi Knight. Like we see Luke in Bespin
Mhm.
facing Vader, and Vader is basically playing with him,
Oh yeah.
like doing roundups and like little kid. You're my kid. I know you're playing around. We're just playing rough, but you're not
Yeah.
like this is not what a Jedi can do.
Right.
And then Obi-Wan versus Vader is just such a lame duel. Like,
It
they do
is.
this, the spins, and then whoosh, he gets a slice. So finally getting to see Jedi's in action, and like I remember the
Yeah.
duel with Darth Maul, I was like,
Oh,
oh my
I
god.
was melting.
Yeah, me too, man. So for me, the prequels have a special place in my heart, and
Yeah.
I'm so pro prequels. I do not like the sequels though,
Yeah.
and let's not even talk about that. But the
Yeah.
prequels are have a special place in my heart.
The only thing that I did like about the sequels was being able to see the Millennium Falcon and all that cool stuff. It was just being able to see it again was like, oh, that's cool. But I wasn't really vibing with the people, like the
I
characters and
I
stuff. So
actually resent that part specifically because I think they use that as bait.
yeah,
I mean, for me, I cannot speak about everyone else, but in my personal case, I was at Celebration, and I remember seeing in front of everyone. It was like a church, like being in church, and like have like a religious experience because everyone was together. We were watching the trailer for the very first time, and then you see the shot that is a Millennium Falcon, one of, because you recognize the panels, you know, like this pillow shape arches that there are, but within the Falcon, and then Han Solo finally comes into like an old Han Solo with Chewie, and he goes, "Chewie, we're home." Dude, I
Yeah.
almost pissed my pants. And I remember that reaction. Everyone was screaming euphorically. But that's what got me into the theater. I
Right.
was hoping to see more of that.
Right.
So when I noticed that was just a percentage, a little percentage of that, and everything else was just a handover of passover of the torch to the new characters, that was devastating. For me, it was
Yeah.
devastating. And so I wasn't so happy about seeing the Falcon again or any of the old characters again because of the way that they treat it and what they
Yeah.
did with Luke is unforgivable. And
Yeah.
there's so many stuff that there's we can spend hours and there's no way to defend those films. I'm sorry.
No, I'm right there with you. I know other people are too. There, I mean, I know our buddy John, who's been on here. He's hates the sequels. So yeah, I get it. But I mean, that's just the one thing that I was like, I was happy to see. Like, oh yeah, that's cool, and
For
it was
for for me, the
fun to see
sequels
it going
are
around.
big money independent films.
Yeah.
They're indie films. They're films made by a Star Trek director who wanted to flirt with the Star Wars lore. He got permission to do to go out of canon,
Mm-hmm.
and people blame a lot of on Ryan Johnson. I don't think Ryan Johnson is the one to blame. Everything should be blamed on JJ, and Ryan was trying to continue a story that JJ initiated. And so he basically grabbed something that was broken
Mm-hmm.
and just kept going saying the same thing, and
Yeah.
so it made it worse. um but I think I see them as independent films, like you know, like a fan film with a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I agree. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough of that. Did you see the redone fight between Vader and Anakin?
The guy that does
It,
it on YouTube, like
yeah, yeah,
recreates
yeah,
the whole thing. Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah. I thought that was pretty good. That would be nice to have instead, like, because it was a nice blend of the two, and you get a sense that, oh, okay, this is cool.
It makes more sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Obi-Wan shouldn't have been that decrepit, but I don't know.
I'm not a
It is
fan
what
of
it is.
Obi-Wan. I'm not a fan of Obi-Wan. I've never been a fan of Obi-Wan. I think it was I always found him very manipulative. Like you know, um, your father was killed by a guy named Vader. Like, dude, you're lying. Like, that's not fair. And then, oh, that, well, you know what I tell you was the truth from a certain point of view. That's the
Mhm,
most convenient answer I ever heard
mhm,
in my life. Like, oh yeah, I didn't want to tell you about Leia because Leia was plan B. Because if you fail, like, you know, that was like he comes across so even in the prequels, he's very manipulative. Like, he goes and talks to Padme, and then you tell me where he is, tell me what Annie is, and then she shows her all this footage. He set her up, and then he goes and hide in the spaceship. Like,
mhm.
dude, that's so, you're like, what the heck? Aren't these supposed to be your loved ones? And yeah, you can be part of the council, but we're not gonna name you a master, and I want you to
Mhm.
spy on your friend Palpatine. It's like, you're not my friend, you're just using me. So
Yeah.
that character has always come, at least in my case, he's always comes off as someone very manipulative. Like, this was your father's lightsaber, and
Uh-huh.
dude, you're such a liar. You're setting the kid in motion to you know, to using them against the young guy. Like, it's just like it's like a corrupted politician from
Yeah.
my
Well,
perspective.
and it was from the get-go, I guess. So
Mhm.
just more of the council influence. And
Yeah.
it's weird. It's weird how he was like, in Phantom Menace, he's like, if you would just listen to them, you would be on the council.
Mhm.
But Qui-Gon knew that this isn't the way it was supposed to be. It's
Right,
not the
and
way it's supposed to go.
I think George was trying to make amends with that on Phantom Menace, because if you really analyze that Phantom Menace from Obi-Wan's perspective, Obi-Wan was never ready. Like,
Right.
Qui-Gon spends the whole film like saying, that be mindful of the living, like, and are we taking another mindless creature with us? Like, he makes this horrible comments here
Right.
and there, and then Obi-Wan Qui-Gon is always like, "What?" like trying to, like, youngling, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not
Yeah.
ready,
Yeah.
and then he dies, and then Yoda is like, I don't think you're ready, but like, you're basically forcing my hand here because you're saying you're going to train the kid. I don't think you're ready, and now you're telling me you're going to train someone. So you're not ready to become a Jedi. Now you're becoming a master. Like, you're keeping you're trying to get a PhD and you haven't even gotten your bachelor's.
Right.
So that kind of justifies why he's like an offshoot Jedi and not necessarily a canonical form like Mace Windu, for example. That and even Yoda in Empire, he's like battling with the boys of, he was like from the Nether. He's trying to manipulate this thing, so he's too old to begin the training, and then he goes like, "Well, was I? Would I? Well, I was the same thing. Like, dude,
Yeah.
go and see the light. Get away from here. Like find the light. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of my sight." Like, every time that he shows up, it's just everything just like Luke is freaking like frozen and hot, and he's like, "You must go to the Dagobah system." Dagobah system, bro, get me out of here. I'm freezing my balls here.
Yeah.
What Dagobah system? Who's Dagobah? I just need some warmth. Like, I don't know. It's a very interesting character. I've never been a fan of it, but obviously it's part of a franchise that I really love. So
Right. Yeah. I hear you. I get you.
yeah.
Well, I don't know what kind of time restraints you have, but I don't want to keep too much of your time here. Um, so it's been a pleasure. Thank
Likewise,
you
man.
so much for coming on here.
We always chat here and there when we never done this. I know you guys have been very, very supportive of Plastic Crack since it came out. I remember hearing in your show and being very happy about it, because the typical how do you measure success? How do you define success in that type of genres? And like, of course, if it goes and millions of people watch it and everything, that's the typical things of success. But I made that film or that series now thinking of profiles like yours, like people like you who collects, who are family man, can watch it and connect with it and have something good about it. That's for me is the best award of the best outcome that I'm hoping to have. So when I heard you guys like talking, saying nice things about it, I'm like, oh, shoot, this is all the effort paid off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that you invited me, and that we finally got to talk like this. We'd
Yeah.
always been like, a message here and there.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a blast. And okay, so tell us, where can people find you? What you're doing, what you're all
Well,
about.
the tour related stuff, it's on let me I don't it's on Instagram. I think it's Plastic Crack Film. Let me just double check real quick. On Instagram it's Plastic Crack Film with two C's, and on Facebook and everywhere else it's this Plastic Universe.
Okay.
We on our YouTube channel, which is under Plastic Universe, I had a show on in like Plastic Chats, and I had a show in Spanish, Galaxia de Plástico. But I'm doing some other stuff, so those that took a different route. But there's a lot of content in there on our YouTube channel, and we're posting pretty often new stuff in there. And like I was saying, Geek Hunt, I'm taking Geek Hunt to another level. Like, there's all the Mexican there's a few Mexican cities already published, but the next videos are going to be in Europe, like geek hunting in Europe, and we found some really nice stuff in there.
Nice.
And then this year, season 2 of Plastic Crack is coming out finally. Like I said, we're compiling now content. It's gonna be different than what we saw. It's gonna taste different. It's gonna feel different. But I'm very excited because I'm finally at peace with the outcome. How is it gonna look like? So
Yeah.
so I sincerely hope that people like you also dig that, and hopefully it will cater to collectors like you.
Yeah. Sounds like fun. I'm looking forward to it as I'm getting caught on all my wires.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dustin. Thank you so much.
So much. And I'll play us out here if I can figure it out.